Harry and Meghan supposedly heading back for the Invictus Games. A week ago, he was bringing her and the kids. Then a couple of days after that, they were staying in a royal palace. William wasn't happy. Kate did the Three Peaks challenge. Now, apparently, Meghan might not come. The kids might not come. Again, an absolute cluster bomb. I nearly said the wrong word. We go live to Hollywood. There's only one person to talk. I cannot wait for this morning. Kinsey Schofield, good morning.
I mean, is this not what we predicted? We both said we'll believe it when we see it. This all felt like a painfully orchestrated PR stunt. And I've even said from the beginning of this that my prediction was that Harry would not come, or Meghan and the kids would not come. Harry would say it was because of security, all to yet again villainize his father and say, look at my dad not taking care of us and not making my family feel safe in the UK.
We had a woman on, I don't know if you've been listening, it's late with you, you've been working hard. She's going, you're so unfair. He's every right to come back to this country. The royal family is this and the royal family is that. And I'll say it to you, and I said it to him. Whatever you think, it was Sharon Miller, and she's entitled to her opinion. My point about Harry and Meghan is this, and I will say it until the last breath is taken from my lungs. If you don't agree with something, you have every right to, and walk away from it. You don't land 8 hours later and sign a $115 million deal with Spotify to basically just slag off the very thing that you don't want anything to do with, and then you start to ingratiate yourselves. This, you're so right. I mean, this will be, for me, the end game, because I think that Charles probably, some of us would say naively, but as a grandfather myself, I can see what he's doing. Probably because he's not well, thought, listen, it would be nice for me to meet the grandchildren. Then the Sussex's PR machine goes into full swing, and it's going to be, we're getting this, and we're getting a house, and we're doing all these sorts of things. Presumably, still, that isn't enough. I think Camilla's a massive part of this, by the way. I really do, Kins. It's been widely touted that she's as lacking in love for Harry and Meghan as William and Kate are. And I think there will come a time when she says to her husband, listen, mate, you've done everything, and these people are taking the mickey out of you, and that nothing will ever satisfy them. And I hope that the palace wakes up to the fact that they're just going to push them and push them and push them and just pull. But it's difficult for the palace, because if they say now don't come, this is what Harry and Meghan do, isn't it?
Right. I did sense that Queen Camilla and I had the same enemy when we met, because she was awfully nice to me. So I do feel like you're right, that she doesn't necessarily like these two individuals and doesn't support them. You know, we're going to talk about the Princess of Wales and her amazing accomplishment. And I was working earlier today, and I went over to their page, and I saw that my daddy follows the Princess of Wales, and I started bawling because I thought it was so sweet that he is trying to engage in something that I care about and one of my passions and interests. And I thought, we are so special to have fathers. And if Prince Harry refuses to allow his father to see his grandchildren after 4 years, then it's Harry that is going to look like the villain. It is Harry that's going to look like the piece of trash. Because King Charles, to your point, is living with cancer, continues to show up every day and work and do a great job as an ambassador for the United Kingdom. You know, look at that trip to DC. He did incredible work there. And poor Thomas Markle just lost a limb, has never met these children. Harry and Meghan cry and complain, and then all they talk about is how empathetic and compassionate they are, but their actions say otherwise. The king deserves to see his grandchildren, and Harry and Meghan are manipulative and self-serving, and I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm tired.
I'm with you, and I think the problem is they probably think, because the palace is old-fashioned and has ways of doing things, they probably think they're ahead of the 8 ball. Now, I think the king, probably, for the reasons I set out, has agreed to it. He's probably been counselled that it'll end in failure and that they'll use it. But they have used it. Because if you cared only about your cancer-stricken father and him meeting your grandchildren, right, you wouldn't be briefing the press, as all the people around the Sussex are, about what size house and how many servants and what about the security. It becomes a melodrama. It always becomes a melodrama. And I suspect that everybody, William, Kate, certainly Camilla, they just go, why would you bother? These people make it so difficult. They then, I mean, if they come, and see Charles. You and I both know, Kins, that will be in the press within 5 seconds. It'll be in the press, because that's what they do.
Here's
Welcome back to the channel that always keeps it real, always has the Sussexes' backs, and never, ever lets the critics run the show. If you're new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now, because today we've got our weekly Royal Roundup, and trust me, there's a lot to unpack. We're covering everything happening on both sides of the Atlantic this week, from a UK visit that's apparently hit some serious turbulence before it's even started, to a surprising public sighting involving a very controversial member of the family. So grab your snacks, settle in, because this one's a ride. Let's start with the story everyone's talking about. Reports are swirling that Harry and Meghan's upcoming UK visit is already, and I quote, in tatters, even before they've stepped foot on British soil. Now, before anyone gets ahead of themselves, let's slow down and actually look at what's being said here, because this is exactly the kind of headline our critics love to run with, blow out of proportion, and use to paint the Sussexes as some kind of walking disaster. The truth, as usual, is a lot more nuanced than a dramatic tabloid headline. According to insiders, the trip has apparently been plagued by a string of PR mishaps, the kind of behind-the-scenes stumbles that happen with basically every high-profile visit, but somehow only make headlines when Harry and Meghan are involved. Funny how that works, right? Every single royal family member has had moments where the optics didn't line up perfectly, where a planned appearance got reshuffled, where a scheduling conflict turned into a media circus. But when it's Harry and Meghan, suddenly it's a full-blown crisis, a disaster, tatters. Take your pick of the dramatic word of the week. We see you, tabloid press. We know exactly what you're doing. And here's the part that actually matters, the part with real emotional weight behind it. It's being reported that Prince Harry is seriously considering the possibility of making this trip to the UK completely alone, leaving Meghan and the kids back home. And the reason isn't PR optics or family drama, it's security. Actual, legitimate concerns about whether his family would be properly protected once they land. This is not some petty diva move. This is a father weighing whether it's even safe to bring his wife and 2 young children into an environment where his own protective coverage has been an ongoing legal and bureaucratic battle for years now. Think about that for a second. A grown man, a husband, a father, having to sit down and calculate whether flying his own family to his own home country is a risk worth taking. That's not headline drama. That's a genuinely heartbreaking reality that so many critics conveniently gloss over every single time this story comes up. It's so much easier to mock Harry for being difficult than it is to actually sit with the uncomfortable truth that he's dealing with a security situation that most of us will thankfully never have to think twice about. So while the tabloids are out here framing this trip as some kind of unravelling catastrophe, what's actually happening is a father trying to navigate an incredibly delicate, high-stakes decision about his family's safety, all while the media circles like vultures waiting for the next dramatic angle to spin. And that, right there, is exactly the gap between the real story and the story the critics want you to believe. This channel exists to close that gap every single week. Now, let's shift gears, because this next story is honestly one nobody saw coming this week. Disgraced former Prince Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, and yes, that's the name he's going by these days after everything that's unfolded around his royal status, has apparently broken cover and stepped back out into public view. He was reportedly seen out and about alongside his brother, Prince Edward, and Edward's wife, Sophie, in what looks like an attempt to slowly ease back into some semblance of public life. Now, let's be honest with each other for a second. This is the kind of story that could easily spiral into 100 different directions, depending on who's reporting it and what angle they're pushing. But let's stick to what we actually know instead of jumping to wild conclusions. Andrew has been almost entirely out of the public eye for a long stretch now, following the fallout from his own controversies, and any sighting of him stepping back into the spotlight, even briefly, even quietly, alongside family members, is going to generate headlines, no matter how small or mundane the actual outing was. What's interesting here is the optics of who he was seen with. Edward and Sophie have generally maintained a lower-key, steadier public image compared to some other members of the family, so choosing to appear alongside them, whether that was a deliberate PR move or just a simple family outing, sends a certain message. Maybe it's an attempt to slowly rebuild some kind of public presence through association with family members who haven't been dragged through the same level of scandal. Maybe it really was just a completely normal family gathering that got photographed and blown into a headline. We don't know for certain, and neither does anyone else reporting on it. So let's not pretend otherwise. But here's the thing our channel wants to highlight, because it's honestly wild when you step back and look at the full picture. While Andrew, a man at the centre of extremely serious, well-documented controversy, can apparently step out in public alongside senior royals with relatively muted media backlash compared to what he's actually been accused of, Harry and Meghan get absolutely torn apart in the press over things like scheduling changes, security concerns, and completely normal family logistics. The double standard here is not subtle, and it's exactly the kind of hypocrisy we're not going to stay quiet about on this channel. Think about the sheer imbalance in how these stories get covered. A father trying to protect his children generates endless mocking headlines about drama and diva behaviour. Meanwhile, a man attached to years of serious scandal steps out for a walk with family, and it's treated as a mild, almost charming little comeback moment. If that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about how selectively the royal rota chooses its outrage, I honestly don't know what will. And that's really just scratching the surface of everything going on this week, because there's plenty more swirling around both sides of the Atlantic right now. New details keep emerging by the day, some confirmed, plenty still unverified rumours making the rounds on social media and in tabloid circles. And as always, our job here is to sift through the noise, call out the obvious agenda-driven spin when we see it, and give you, our amazing Sussex family, the version of events that actually respects your intelligence. This is exactly why weekly roundups like this one matter so much. Royal news moves incredibly fast, and if you're only getting your information from outlets that have a clear bias against Harry and Meghan, you're getting a seriously skewed picture of what's actually happening. Every week there's a new headline designed to make the Sussexes look difficult, dramatic or out of touch, and every week we're here breaking down what's actually going on underneath all that noise, adding the missing context and calling out the double standards nobody else seems willing to point out. If you've made it this far into the video, you already know exactly what kind of channel this is. We don't do blind hate. And we definitely don't do fake objectivity that secretly favours one side while pretending to be neutral. We call things exactly as we see them. We back the Sussexes when the criticism is unfair, And we're not afraid to point out when other royal family members get away with things that would absolutely destroy Harry and Meghan's reputation if the roles were reversed. That's the whole point of this channel, and honestly, that's probably why you're still watching. So here's where you come in. If this breakdown gave you a clearer picture of what's actually happening this week, if you appreciated us cutting through the tabloid noise instead of just repeating it, do us a solid and hit that subscribe button right now if you haven't already. Smash the like button too. It genuinely helps this channel keep growing and keeps us able to bring you these breakdowns every single week without missing a beat. And drop a comment down below. We want to know what you think about Harry potentially travelling solo, and honestly, we want to know what you think about Andrew's sudden public reappearance, too. This community thrives on conversation, so don't be shy. Let's take a moment before we wrap up to really sit with the bigger theme running through this entire week's news cycle. On one hand, you've got a father wrestling with an agonizing decision about whether his family can safely visit his own home country. On the other hand, you've got a man with a deeply troubled public history casually stepping back into the spotlight with barely a ripple of consequence. If that contrast doesn't perfectly sum up everything frustrating about how this family gets covered in the press, I honestly don't know what does. And that's exactly why channels like this one exist, to point out what everyone else conveniently ignores. Whatever happens next, whether Harry ends up making that UK trip solo or somehow finds a way to bring his whole family along safely, whether Andrew's public re-emergence turns into something bigger or just quietly fades back into the background, you can count on this channel to bring you the real breakdown, without the spin, without the agenda, and without the double standards baked into so much of the other coverage out there. That's going to wrap up this week's Roundup, Sussex family. Thank you so much, as always, for spending this time with us. If you loved this breakdown, make sure that subscribe button is lit up so you never miss next week's update. Because trust me, with this family, there is always something new developing. Drop your thoughts down in the comments. Let us know which story stood out to you the most this week, and as always, be kind to each other down there. Until next time, this has been Sussex Champions, standing behind the Sussexes, calling out the hypocrisy and telling you the stories exactly the way they deserve to be told. We'll catch you in the next one. Take care, and we'll see you soon.